Hi, I'm Katrina.
And I'm Belinda.
And welcome to Crumbs 13.
Today we are going to talk about a story that has been dear and near to me personally. It has affected me at so many levels for years, and then God just continually brings me back to it and reminds me of it over and over and over again. And that is, we're going to talk about Peter. And the disciples being sent off after being in ministry for a very long time. The Lord Jesus sends them off at night into the sea. So it's Peter gets called out onto the water. So that's what we talk about.
So there's a couple different places you can find this. You can look at Matthew 14, starting in verse 22. You can look at Mark 6, starting in verse 45, or John 6, starting in verse 15. So I personally have my Bible open right now in my lap. It's in Matthew 14. So feel free to follow along or listen to the story. But we just want to encourage you to definitely seek the Lord as you're listening to this story. There's just so much there that will just do your soul so much benefit.
So our desire, of course, as all of the times that we record, is just to bring a little bit of something that will mark you and create an appetite for you to seek out more, because certainly we are not going to get it all right. We are going to definitely fall short, and we just desire to share His word and how it's marked us, in hopes that it will mark others in the same way or beyond. So it's important to understand, and this will hopefully we'll talk about this one time, but Jesus and the disciples had just got done feeding 5,000 people based on, I think, a few fish and 7 loaves of bread. And they fed 5,000 and they had leftovers. And so we won't go into that, because that's definitely an opportunity for us to talk about that later. But in the
notable
exhaustion,
miracle, though.
Right,
notable miracle.
5,000 people who had been, and it does make it sound like, the story does make it sound as if they had been traveling and walking and been in ministry for not just that period of time, but all day and maybe days. I'm not sure. I don't remember the exact recollection of that. But Jesus then sends the disciples at night. He sends them in a boat to cross the sea.
He goes up to the mountain to pray.
He
spend time alone.
And that is very valuable. We have talked about the upper room and the power of that prayer time and your prayer closet, and what the Father wants to do in meeting each individual. And I think that Jesus, He did it Himself, and we're to be like Him. And that is so powerful.
And it is the greatest form of self-care.
Right.
The world tells you, like, you need to take care of yourself. I'm telling you, this is the greatest way that you can take care of yourself, is just quieting yourself before the Lord and spending time listening and praying and worshiping. So Jesus did just that. Right after pouring out, He went up to the mountain to pray.
To be
alone with the Father. And the disciples went out on the boat.
And so they are out on the boat, and a storm is brewing, and the waves, it says that the waves are getting very big and the winds are boastfully. And it's foggy, so that they make that remark also. But Jesus comes walking on the water, and the disciples see Him, and they believe. One of them yells, "It's a ghost!" They think it's a ghost, and they think it's Jesus, and it's a ghost. And Peter is doing this whole thing about questioning.
Right.
Well, how do we do that nowadays? We question, was that the Lord? Was it not the Lord? Did the Lord tell me to do that? Did the Lord tell me not to do that? And I think that's so how we are. But in Peter questioning, he yells out, if it is you, Jesus, then call me.
It's just this amazing picture of them. It says in some of the accounts, it actually says they're struggling with the oars.
Oh, right.
They're struggling with the oars, and then they see Him, and then Jesus says, "It is I.
It is I." Yeah.
Fear not. Fear not.
Fear not.
Be not afraid, or fear not. There's different interpretations. But don't be afraid. I think he actually, in one version, it says, "Take courage."
I think that's a great thing when you think about, okay, I don't know about you, but being one at night and it's dark.
Oh my gosh.
2 crazy big waves and 3 winds a blowing and a storm a brewing, and then you see Jesus walking on water. And
yeah,
I don't know.
Well, I struggle
there's a whole lot.
I struggle using oars on a calm lake.
Don't go canoeing with your husband.
No, so I don't usually use the oars, but yeah, no, I just can imagine like how they're exhausted fighting these oars.
Well, they were already exhausted.
They were already exhausted. Now they're
ministry,
fighting these waves, and then they see him coming at them, and it's something they've never seen before. And I think that's what's also amazing about it is that God, especially right now, is doing things that we've never seen before.
Right.
And so then that's the questioning, right? The questioning comes in like, Lord, is this you, or is this an attack, or it's a ghost, you know?
But it wasn't a ghost.
It was not a ghost. So it's interesting how he questioned though, and he says, tell me to come, because then the Lord just says, come. Yeah. And they know that it's him.
Yeah. I always, like I've said before, I love the fact that Jesus does these few powerful words when he is responding to us.
Right.
You know, not when he's teaching us, but when he's responding to us, it's always these few powerful words. And so then Peter does get out of the boat. So this is one of the things that the Lord taught me a long time ago through a very hard personal lesson. And so Peter gets out of the boat and starts to walk on the water. But one of the things that happened with me, when the Lord called me out of the boat a long time ago about something that he had called me to do, and it felt way too big for me, and it felt like there was no way I could do it, and the fact that he would call me and I'm still working on it. So this is still a work in progress. But when he called me out of the boat, one of the things I realized I did for like 2-3 years, and this is how long it's been, but is that I put my hand on the side of the boat. I got out of the boat. I was confident that I was out of the boat, and I was walking on water with the Lord because he was meeting me spiritually and loving on me all the way through and affirming his presence over and over and over again. But all I did was walk around the boat because I wouldn't let go of the boat. And I kept just going around the boat. And the Lord was like, hey, I'm way out here, like that song Oceans. When my daughter sings that, it just brings me the tears every time, because that song came out shortly after I realized that I had left my hand on the boat and I couldn't get away from the boat because I wanted to be safe in my perspective. And so therefore you have to let go of the boat if you want to move in his direction. So it's not only getting called out of the boat, but it's actually letting go of the boat and stepping out into the great unknown. Where the Spirit's going to lead and where the Lord is going to meet you out on the water. And
the Lord had also asked me to step out of the boat in a very large way this past year. And I'll tell you, one of the songs that struck me was Burn the Ships. Because it's almost like the boat's not an option anymore. Get out of the boat and stay out of the boat.
And that's a perfect testimony to exactly how I felt. Like if the boat had been burned, I wouldn't have been able to touch it.
Right. So one thing too that really struck me as you were talking was I'll never forget when Randy and I decided to start a business together. And Randy's my husband, for those of you that don't know. I talked about bringing other people in, and he said, we don't want them in our boat. And I think so often, instead of getting out of the boat, we bring other people into the boat with us because we think that we're going to fix the situation ourselves by bringing people in.
That's interesting. So Peter gets out of the boat. And he is not holding on to the boat. He is looking at the Lord and walking directly on water to the Father to meet him out in the midst of this raging storm while the other disciples are watching. So this is like not only, so the power of that is that when the Lord is moving in your lives and when the Lord is moving in you individually, even if you're not directly speaking, there are people who can see the power of the Father moving in and through you, and it's not being missed. It's pretty powerful. So anyway, so what happens though, and this is really one of those things that I think happens often, is as Peter's walking, he becomes fully aware of his surroundings. So now his perceptions are not, his eyes are not fixed on the Lord. He's now consumed with, oh my gosh, these waves are going to take me. Oh my gosh, the wind is going to take me. And he becomes super aware of his surroundings, and he begins to sink.
Yeah.
And I love, love, love that visual of the Father, Peter yelling, help, because he's sinking. And the word, and I love this word, when Scripture puts this word in, it's in immediately. Immediately the Lord reached out and grabbed Peter's hand and pulled him up. That immediately for me has always been so profound and so faithful, consistent, and true that it always just brings pause.
Yeah. And here's the thing too. When Peter recognized his circumstances in the waves and the wind because he took his eyes off Jesus. But Jesus is so faithful when we cry out to him.
Yeah.
And so when Peter started to sink, the first thing he did was he cried out, Lord, save me. And then Jesus immediately saved him. But I think there's times where like we get caught up or trapped in our circumstances and we forget to cry out to the Lord.
Right.
Because we're just, again, so busy trying to take care of it ourselves. But Peter cries out to the Lord and then he immediately saves him. And then Jesus says something to him that is like, it just sucks you in the gut. And it's, why didn't you have faith? He asks him.
I know, oh, you have little faith.
You have little faith. Why did you doubt?
So it's so incredible because oftentimes when we have talked about the healings that the Father has brought, and a while back we shared about the woman with the issue of blood.
Yeah.
And how she stepped out, and his response is, what great faith you have.
Yeah.
So certainly we want to be found with great faith, but isn't it amazing that it was a disciple that he spoke to and said, what little faith you have? Like, in other words, you of all people should know that I'm going to meet you. I'm not going to let you sink. I'm not going to let you drown. I'm not going to let you fall underneath. Yeah. And I think that is very, very profound.
Yeah.
The Peter in himself, like Peter's also the one that denied Christ 3 times. And and that we will talk about maybe down the road.
Yeah.
But I just, the story in itself, if there's one thing that you grab a hold of many things, but the crumbs to grab a hold of today is that, one, get out of the boat. Don't stay in the safe place because you're afraid of what the Father's calling you to. When you get out of the boat, let go of the boat. Don't go around the boat over and over and over and over again because you think it's safe.
Yeah. Because
really, the Father is going to meet you out beyond. And in that excitement, and it is exciting, he will meet you beyond your circumstances. He will meet you beyond your shortcomings. He will meet you beyond your finances. He will meet you beyond your job and your marriage and your family and anything that could be a hardship for you. He's going to meet you not only in it, but beyond it. And then the last thing is, don't be caught with little faith, but be of great faith that he's got it, and trust him with all your heart and lead not into your own understanding.
Yeah. Keep your eyes fixed on Jesus. He is the victory. Circumstances don't define your victory. He does.
Yeah.
So keep your eyes fixed on Jesus. I love that.
Yeah. So have a great day.
Yeah. God bless you.
God bless you. And like and subscribe.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next week.
Bye.